You're listening to the Connecticut Real Estate Edge podcast, your source for tips and tricks on building wealth through real estate in Connecticut. You will get the best techniques from leading local experts in real estate and lending. Now, here's your host, Robert Weinberg.
Good Saturday morning to everybody, and welcome to Mortgage Matters Radio Show and the Connecticut Real Estate Edge podcast. Along with Rob Weinberg, I'm Gary Byron. Hey, brother, good to see you.
Hey, Gary, how you doing this morning, bud?
I can't complain. I'm telling you, the weather, it really has a great impact on how the spirit of the individual.
Everybody, yeah. It's that seasonal depression. You're coming out of it. The sun's shining. The weather's getting better.
And you're out and you're more active and you're doing things. And really, for me, I don't know if I get seasonal. I don't know if I'd use the word depression. I really am not a depressed person. But I'll tell you, I come more to life. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. You come more to life. You know what? People, they hibernate a lot in the winter. So they're out more this time of year. So I think we're human beings. We love to socialize by nature. And I think by being active and socializing and you're feeling the warmth of the sun on your face, boy, you got the windows open at your house, your windows rolled down, in your car. I think it just puts people in general in higher spirits, in a better mood.
It does, everybody. I noticed the attitudes of my clients, and what I've really seen, it's been crazy, is how the seasons affect real estate. Now, we did a whole show on it, but in reality, right now, today, May 2023, right? All of a sudden, when the weather shifted, the housing market shifted, meaning all these people that were on the sidelines all of a sudden jumped in. All these people that were waiting, now was the time. And I think that seasonality, I think the sunshine, the weather, the temperature, it plays in with that for sure.
So as you know, personally, I'm looking to buy a new home. Mm-hmm. And yesterday, I went and looked at one. Today, I'm going to look at one a little bit later on this afternoon. The last time we chatted, I think we were talking that we were on that, we're just getting into more inventory because of the season changing. Well, now that we're here in the, almost middle of May, I'm starting to see a couple of more,
it's not a ton, but there's
houses,
more.
But
there are more. It's a
more.
trickle. It's a slow trickle coming onto the market.
So I've got two questions for you when it comes to that, and then we can get into the topic of today's show. Supply and demand. When there's not a large supply and a greater demand, what's the most amount you're seeing people paying over asking
I have
price?
one right now, $60,000 over ask. It was listed for $299.9. Their final accepted price was $360,000.
60.
Yes.
60.
And that's the exception, but I have multitudes of others that are 10, 20, 25,000 over. So an approach that a lot of real estate agents are taking that know the market, that really understand the fundamentals, is they're kind of going back to the client and really coaching them and say, look, if you really love this house, if this is the one, this is what it's going to take to get it. And the amount that it's going to take to get it is obviously well over ask. But if there are multiple offers, if they have a collaboration with the selling agent and they can figure out what the meal ticket or that hot button is for the seller, they can craft an offer that's going to get accepted. It's just, unfortunately, it's who's willing to pay? Who's willing to pay to play, right? And everyone's offering over ask. So one guy saying, $10,000. Well, another one, hey, I'll do 20. That's not going to cut it in this market. If it's a high-demand property, then there could be dozens of offers, and every one of them is over ask. So you say, I'm 10, 20, that's not enough. So another time that collaborating with your real estate agent is important, because what I found is the novice agents, the ones that don't have as much experience, they'll tell you, yeah, do 10,000 over. Yeah, do 15,000 over. They don't have a real handle on what it's going to take.
I've heard 20, 25,000. I thought, whoa, 20, 25,000.
It depends on the property,
60
though.
is
It depends
incredible.
on the property. Yeah, that with an average property, I think that amount could work. But with a super nice, I have one, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I have a beautiful one I'm working on right now. It's got a view of the Hartford skyline. It's in Bloomfield. It's gorgeous, okay? And it's very recently built. And that one I want to say is around 35,000 over ask. But the guy originally was only going to offer like 15 to 20, thinking he was good. And his realtor had to step back and say, look, if this is the one, because this guy wasn't even in the market to buy the house, and he's like, I found it. Like, I wasn't planning on buying a house, but I found my forever home. And all of a sudden, it all comes together. So hopefully that gives you at least some insight. You're working with a great agent, but that kind of brings us to the topic today, which is really all about moving to Connecticut. Why are people moving to Connecticut? What's this migration all about? Why is there so much demand for housing in Connecticut? Because I want to say like 3-4 years ago, you probably agree that more people were talking about getting out of Connecticut. How do we leave here? This place stinks. We need to go somewhere else.
We're still hearing that now,
Yeah,
folks.
there still are. But you know what? There's so many people moving to Connecticut, migrating to this area from other areas, and us that live here go, wait, why? I don't get it. That makes no sense. But you see the demand for housing. You see the supply being low. It's creating this shift. It's creating a lot of just a lot of issues in the market, this housing crisis. And that's what I want to dive into today is why people are moving here.
Can I ask you one other question?
Okay.
What's the impact on Biden's ruling, his executive power of $40 more for those who have exceptional
That's
credit?
all BS. Yes, it's true. It's happening, but the $40 number doesn't mean anything because I had a client yesterday that's putting 25% down. They're not getting any hit on their mortgage. So it has to do with the particular scenario. I have another client that's putting like 15% down. They're getting hit really hard with that fee you're talking about. So it's not one size fits all. That may be an average. It's costing $40, but some people it's zero. Some people it's quite a bit more. So that's not really having any effect other than that's just a media frenzy. It's putting housing and mortgage and interest rates more back in the minds of people. But on an actual on-the-ground reality basis, most people, unless they're getting advice from inexperienced novices, it's not having an impact.
Okay, because I hate to have my 800-plus credit score in me being penalized because I've been fiscally responsible and rewarding those who have been fiscally irresponsible by me, subsidizing
that.
$40
Welcome to the United States, brother. We're in a democratic country. That's how it works.
Doesn't make it right.
It doesn't.
I'm just wondering if it has any impact on, because I'll tell you, that doesn't
I've had
jive
people
well with
mention
me.
it and talk about it, but I haven't someone say, oh, well, I'm not buying a house because my payment's going to be $25 more now, or I'm not buying the house because I have to pay this $400 additional fee for my interest rate. So yes, it's an issue, but it's not completely having people shut out. It's more, again, a talking point, like you said.
You mentioned something a moment ago, and I kind of want to go right back to that, and it kind of leads into today's show about people moving out of Connecticut, people moving into Connecticut, and kind of exploring maybe what are some of the reasons behind the migration. Like, why are people coming to Connecticut?
So what I'm seeing, and I feel like I have a very unique perspective on this, because I would say when someone's thinking of moving to Connecticut and buying a home here, at least I've seen that I'm the first call they make, meaning the mortgage lender is the first call when they've said, we're moving here. What do we do next? Mortgage lender, we need to get pre-approved. They type on Google, best mortgage lender in Connecticut, mortgage broker in Connecticut, whatever it may be. I come up, right? My profile comes up. My reviews come up. I'm proud of that.
You should be.
So I get calls from a lot of out-of-state people that are coming to move here, and they've already made up their mind that they're moving here. They have their job lined up, whatever it may be. But the thing is that I'm finding that most of the people that are moving to Connecticut, they're not coming from Florida for the most part. They're not coming from Alabama or North Carolina to move to Connecticut, okay?
Right.
They're coming from the high-cost states. I have one moving right now from Alaska, very high-cost state. I have one moving right now from Los Angeles, super high cost. I have another moving to Connecticut from Denver, Colorado, high cost area. So I'm seeing that they're not moving from low cost areas for the most part. They're moving from areas that are either along the same lines or even higher cost than Connecticut when it comes to just overall cost of living, housing prices, property taxes, grocery prices, just your average day-to-day living. So that's a big thing, is people moving from higher cost and higher tax states. But why are they moving here? It's jobs, obviously. There are jobs in Connecticut. You may think that's crazy, but there's so many jobs here that are remote jobs. What? You don't even see them.
No.
You don't even hear them. There are so many right now that are remote jobs that are, the companies are in Connecticut and they're hiring remotely, and people, hey, if they want to move here, they want to move here. Why wouldn't they?
Well, I'm not aware of all these jobs. I thought nobody wanted to work in Connecticut. Well, I thought there's more incentivization for people to stay home and collect unemployment on their couch than go out and get a job.
I think all that has come to an end, or is
well, it's
soon,
about time.
I do believe. So when you're looking at other areas, though, versus Connecticut, if you've got that high cost of living, here you have a higher quality of life. The school systems can be better in a lot of places in Connecticut than others.
Right. Actually, I'm glad that you say that, because it kind of leads into the next question. What are some of the towns or cities that people are migrating to? And to the point of schools, education, I would think that and police department, 1 and 2, as far as what people are looking for.
I'm seeing it all over. Like, I'm seeing people come to all different cities in Connecticut, but there's really a couple areas that I've kind of seen over and over happen that I'm like, okay, these areas are higher growth right now. So number one is that metropolitan district down in southern Connecticut near New York. So I'm talking about like Stamford, Norwalk, that metropolitan area. A lot of people move into that area, very close proximity to the city, great amenities, nightlife. It's got a lot going on. Stamford, obviously, for a while was not doing well. Now there's a lot of businesses opening up. They're building a lot more properties, apartment buildings, things like that. There's more growth going on there. And people like being close to Manhattan. They do. So there's a lot of people moving to that Stamford, Norwalk Metro. One that I've been surprised with is the New Haven Metro. Because when you're from Connecticut, it's like, why will people move to New Haven Metro? Well, I've had quite a few lately that have been coming from out of state from very high cost areas, and they're finding that in the New Haven metropolitan area, they can get a property for so much less than they could.
Than Stamford?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only Stamford, but out of state. If they're coming from Colorado to Connecticut, they're able to get such a better value on a property. Now, I don't think New Haven has great schools from what I know. I'm not in that market niche specifically, but I think it's more the cost of living in New Haven County. That metro area of New Haven is a lot lower. You can get, great homes at a low price. And the taxes, while they're not super low, comparatively speaking, they're not that bad. The last one I want to touch on, which this one's been a shocker to me, is the Litchfield Hills. Lots of people moving from New York, New Jersey to the Litchfield Hills. I've always thought of that area for
it's beautiful.
Older, but I have a family right now, young couple, engaged, don't even have any kids. They're like in their mid-20s, and they just bought a $500,000 house in the Litchfield Hills.
Pricey, but it's beautiful.
The taxes are very, very low up there. The mill rates are great. You can get a ton of land for the money. If you work remote, which this family does, you've got like everything you could want. You're not going to have a better scenario. The only negative I would say is you might have to drive 20, 25 minutes to get to a grocery store. But if you don't mind that, you get a ton of land, you get all of the amenities, you get some good things at a great price. So a lot of people are moving up there. And
while we're dealing with rain in the valley, you'll be dealing with snow come wintertime.
Exactly.
I'm almost surprised to hear some of this. How does the cost of living in Connecticut compare to, let's say, some other states?
So like I said, I think the majority of people moving here, I know from experience right now that they're coming from the higher cost states. So it really doesn't affect them because they're looking at it as a move, horizontally, where they're just basically keeping the same expenses and getting a better quality of life in Connecticut. When you have people that are thinking about moving here from low-cost states like the Carolinas, the South, it's not as common. Like, it's very, very few. I've had one in the last year I can think of that moved from Atlanta, Georgia to Connecticut for a job opportunity. But other than that, they're not really moving here from low-cost states. Way more migrating out of Connecticut. Yeah. And I have clients that I helped refinance and buy homes over the last 4 or 5 years, and several have either made the move in the last year or two, or they're in the process. They just sold their home. They're moving down there because, again, a lot more bang for your buck down south. And if you're able to work remote, that flexibility, man, let me tell you, a lot of people wisened up to that during the pandemic and how much you can be flexible with your budget and your spending. And now it's like, wait, I can work that job and I can get a better cost of living. Why wouldn't I do that? It wasn't possible a couple years ago.
What industries in Connecticut are people coming here for?
Finance, insurance, those are two big
insurance,
ones.
yeah.
Finance and insurance are big. And tech, I've been surprised. There's actually quite a few tech companies in Connecticut, and I have a client that I just pre-approved that's moving to Connecticut from Idaho right now, and it's because the company they're working for is based out of Westport, a big tech firm with a global presence, and their headquarters is in Fairfield County. So they're using that opportunity to move here to Connecticut. So there's all these companies that you don't know about, right? And I don't know about, but they're huge hiring. And just because they don't have the biggest skyscraper in the middle of the big city doesn't mean they're not a great company, right? So there are a lot of these smaller or mid-sized companies that you may not have heard of that are hiring, and they're hiring for that flexible work that people want. Maybe you only have to come in to work 1 day a week or 2 days a week, and the rest you can work remote. So that's big. Also, like I said, the remote work is huge and the hybrid work. So that's what industries are really thriving here, are the ones that allow that type of work schedule where it's more flexible.
A little while ago, I brought up, some of the top 2 reasons why what people look for in a town is number one, education, the school systems, and B, how secure, how safe they feel in the community with police. But let's go back to that education one, because let's face it, a lot of people will move with their families, including their children. So, I would imagine schools and education factor into their decision.
Oh, yeah. I would tell you that more than 50% of the families I see move in are having kids or have kids already. So the schools definitely play in to where they're going to buy their home. Because even in Connecticut, there's areas that don't have great schools. There are. There's also areas that have the 9s and 10s schools, and that's what people want. Those areas tend to have the higher priced homes, the higher property taxes, that sort of thing. So good educational system is a no-brainer. Also, there's a lot of prestigious colleges and universities in Connecticut, and those are big they hire a lot of people to work there, right? My wife works at a university there in New Haven County. So I've seen all of the hiring and things that go on. So those universities and colleges are big economic drivers of the local economy. So we're talking about obviously you got Yale. Yale, top-notch school. Everyone knows it.
It's
you
Ivy
got
League,
Quinnipiac. You got Wesleyan. You got Fairfield University. Those are just to name a few.
University of New Haven.
There's so many. University of Hartford. There's dozens and dozens. But, Connecticut is actually known, I don't know if I'd say worldwide, but definitely countrywide, as having that strong education system, specifically the universities. And everyone knows that really comes from the strong, primary education, K through 12, that sort of thing. So you got to be careful. Get with a realtor to really figure out the areas that are going to work best if schools are a priority for you. But there's no doubt that plays into almost everyone's factors when they're buying and looking to buy a home in Connecticut.
How about the role of real estate? How does it play in decision-making process for people who are moving here?
It's a significant role because you need to lay your head on a pillow every single night. So where you actually choose to lay your head and your family is going to have a direct impact on your quality of life, right? When you wake up, are you miserable because of the place you're living, or are you happy and motivated and excited every day? So, people want more space. They want a higher quality of life. And if they're coming to move to Connecticut, especially from another higher cost area, they want that. That's a very, very important thing. They might be looking at home listings saying, wow, we can get that in Connecticut for $500,000. We get so much less in Los Angeles for $500,000, or we get so much less in Denver for $500,000. So they want that more space, right? Another thing in Connecticut is we have land here. A lot of areas, people don't realize, they take it for granted. You don't get a big yard in a lot of areas, okay? But in Connecticut, we have a lot of homes that have great natural, preserve, have a nice backyard, place for the kids to play, that sort of thing. So that's huge because of that quality of life, right? But I think that you really need to make it a point to get with a mortgage advisor early if you're thinking about moving here to figure out what's your affordability, because you might be looking at $500,000-$600,000 houses. Maybe that's what you could afford out where you're at, but is that what you can afford in Connecticut? Wow. You got to make sure that you're looking in the right areas. Also getting the right loan program for your needs. We've talked about how important that is. And then if that's done early enough in the process, Gary, I, as the mortgage expert, as the advisor, as the quarterback of this wealth team we're setting up, I can then make the introduction, say, hey, that area you're looking in, I know a great real estate professional in that area. Here's who you need to talk to. And making that introduction to the real estate agent, the attorney, that sort of thing.
Folks, you are listening to Mortgage Matters Radio Show in the Connecticut Real Estate Edge podcast, along with Rob Weinberg. I'm Gary Byron. Of course, you can find out more information on his website at robgw.com. Again, robgw.com. And his phone number, if you want to schedule a consultation, is 860-413-3938. I will repeat all of that and even add in an email address in just a few minutes from now when we wrap things up. Are there any unique challenges, though, or even considerations that people should keep in mind when moving to Connecticut?
Yeah, I mean, if you're moving to Connecticut from an area like Florida or the South or just these lower cost areas, then just be aware of what you're getting into in Connecticut. The taxes are going to be a lot higher almost everywhere you move in Connecticut than the South. I say the South, but I guess I also mean the Midwest too, right? Mm-hmm. I think if you take away the South and the Midwest, a lot of other areas in the country have just as high of a cost of living as Connecticut, or very close when you factor everything in. So that's important. Also, the weather. You got to be able to adjust to colder weather. For me, I moved here in 2009. It was a huge wake-up call for me because I had grown up in Florida and North Carolina. That's where I bought my first property, lived down there a year or two. So, like, when I came up here, it was a rude awakening, let me tell you. And it's something you try to be prepared for mentally and emotionally, but like waking up when there's 2 feet of snow on the ground and having to go out and shovel and do all that.
It hasn't been like
difficult.
That in a few years.
It hasn't been like that in a few years, but you know what? It happens. It does happen. So I would just be aware of the colder weather, even if it's not the snow. The colder weather's here. You know, to me, even 30s and 40s is pretty darn cold and uncomfortable. So, no, we didn't get a lot of negative 10-degree days this year like we did in the past this winter. But just be ready for that adjustment to colder weather. The other thing is Connecticut has a really unique culture and traditions here. And when you live here, you don't really see or care or whatever. It's just when you transplant yourself from Connecticut to somewhere else, like another metro area, it's night and day, right? We have a lot of history here in Connecticut. We have a lot of older homes, a lot of older buildings, a lot of colonial style things that, you know, you might go up to a house that was built in the 1800s here. You don't see that in most other areas, and it actually gives a lot of charm. Yeah. It gives a lot of charm and culture to the area that people here take that for granted, so just be ready.
How do you really navigate the home buying process? I mean, are there resources? Are there any resources available to help you? There are.
So I think the biggest resource as someone that's moving from out of state to Connecticut is going to be that wealth team, your real estate pro. You got to be aligned with early because they're your boots on the ground here locally when you may be out of state. Okay, so that's really, really important. I always say real estate agent is important, but if you're moving from out of state, real estate agent is even more important than if you're someone just moving within the state. So that's the first thing. Also, you know, myself, the mortgage advisor, helping you through that process, helping align you with the right loan and the right program for your needs. Home search websites, you know, whether I say it or not, people are going to use them. So let's talk about Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia. There's all these sites out there that when you type in Connecticut real estate, those are the ones that are going to come up. And there are these home search websites that you hear about. I think probably the most popular one is Zillow, right? Everyone's heard of Zillow. Those are resources I don't love because they give a lot of misinformation about mortgage payments and interest rates. It's all just about generating leads and then making money off you. But if you're just browsing homes,
that's all I use it for. Yeah.
If that's all you use it for, then you're fine. Just don't fill anything out on there.
No. I don't even look at. I only look at the price of the home in the pictures.
That's fine. Then any home search site you can use for that, but leave it there. The other thing is HomeBot. I've talked about HomeBot.
Yeah.
Our listeners can email me at mortgagemattersradioshow@gmail.com to be added to HomeBot. What HomeBot is it's a service that I give all my private clients that gives you a lot of information about the local markets that you're looking in. How much does it cost to move there? How long will it take to move there? What types of properties are available? Is it a seller's market or a buyer's market? It just gives you a lot of in-depth information that you just more than you can get from a conversation with a realtor or with your mortgage advisor. So to our listeners that may be moving to Connecticut, I don't care if it's 3 months away or 3 years away, reach out to me, mortgagemattersradioshow@gmail.com, with your name, your email, and the area of Connecticut that you're looking to move in. Give me a couple areas that you're thinking of, then I can set you up in HomeBot and make that introduction
I'm his
for
personal client. I get this. You're going to love it when you sign up for it. I've only got 3 minutes here. There's a ton of misconceptions about moving to Connecticut, right?
Yeah, I'd say the number one misconception is people that don't live here go, oh, Connecticut, that's only for rich people. That's the number one that I hear all the time.
So
oh,
true.
You live in Connecticut, you must be rich. No one can live there if they don't make a multiple six-figure income.
Well.
I hear that all the time. So that's also little diversity. People think it's all just white picket fences and white people, okay? That's all. I'll tell you, tons of Asians, blacks, Latino, everything is here and everything in between. So, don't be rattled off by that at all. There's a lot of diversity here, and actually more than most people probably think. And the other thing is they think that all areas of Connecticut are expensive, okay? So they think every area is Greenwich, Connecticut when they think of it. We know there's areas in Hartford, East Hartford, you can get some really good deals on some properties. There is areas in inner city New Haven, you might not want to go out of your front door at night, but I'll tell you can get a heck of a deal on a house. And people from out of state may not think that, and it's not true. There's a lot of pockets like that with areas that you can get better homes better price properties, and the high taxes. The taxes are local, so look at the specific area, but you'd be surprised some areas that may have lower tax than you think.
There are some things that are more money, though, in Connecticut.
Without a doubt, but there are things that are a lot more money in Florida, too.
Good point. All right, 1 minute left. What advice, finally, could you give to anybody thinking about moving here?
Number one, choose wisely the professionals you're working with. Number two, explore different areas. Don't just say, I want to live only in Fairfield County or I want to live only in Hartford. Look at the outskirts areas. You may find that diamond in the rough, so be flexible there. Big disparity in costs. And lastly, be flexible with the process, meaning give yourself time. Don't stress yourself out. Do this way ahead of time so that you have the time to be flexible and to do things the right way. And the last tip is follow me directly on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, because we're putting out amazing information every week on the actual local market here and how it can help you buy your first home.
I can't disagree with that because you are the guru, quickly making a national name for himself. Folks, if you've got any questions on this show or any of the others that we've done recently, it's very easy to either rewatch this show or watch some of the ones that we've done in the past. Simply go to Rob's website at www.robgw.com. Again, robgw.com. If you'd like to send Rob an email specifically pertaining to the show, the radio show that we do here, maybe we can even get your question answered on air. Simply email us at mortgagemattersradioshow@gmail.com. And, of course, his phone number to schedule a consultation. And why wouldn't you want to do that? Very simple. 860-413-3938. Again, 860-413-3938. For Rob Weinberg, I'm Gary Byron. Thank you so much for listening and watching Mortgage Matters Radio Show and the Connecticut Real Estate Edge podcast. Until next Saturday, have a good one, everybody. So long.
Thanks for listening. If you have questions about the information we've covered or would like to discuss mortgage financing for your situation, you can reach Robert Weinberg by visiting www.robgw.com.